Marvel just dropped the first trailer for their upcoming MCU series Echo, which is set to premiere simultaneously on Disney Plus and Hulu next January. And one of the things that struck me about this trailer was that it seemed a lot more brutal compared to some of the other MCU shows that we've come to know. And this almost looks like the Netflix series compared to the Marvel series that we've seen on Disney Plus. And there is a reason for that, because we got this news coming out about it right now. Marvel premieres Marvel Spotlight, more grounded character-driven TV series and movies. Now, if you scroll down to this article from Comic Book Resources, Marvel Spotlight was unveiled as a new banner of TV series and movies offering alternative to the status quo, with Echo as its first title. Now, getting down into the meat of the article, this is what it has to say about it. Marvel Spotlight is a nod to the anthology comic book series Spotlight, which was first launched in 1971 and represents the origin of characters like Ghost Rider and Spider-Woman. According to Marvel Studios head of streaming Brad Winterbaum, Marvel Spotlight provides an alternative to the larger-than-life storytelling present in many current Marvel projects. Marvel Spotlight gives us a platform to bring more grounded, character-driven stories to the screen, and in the case of Echo, focusing on street-level stakes over larger MCU continuity, Winterbaum says. Just like comics fans didn't need to read Avengers or Fantastic Four to enjoy Ghost Rider, Spotlight Comics, our audience doesn't need to have seen other Marvel series to understand what's happening in Maya's story. And I think this is a good approach to how they're doing things, because that was what I liked about the first phase of the MCU, where everything was its own standalone story, but they would just happen to cross over with each other. But as of late, we've seen everything was basically just had to be a crossover, and everything was built up to be like, okay, you need to watch this in order to watch the next thing. And they started putting out so much content after a while that people were just getting overwhelmed. And once they get overwhelmed, thinking like, oh, well, I can't watch this next movie because I didn't watch the other series. I mean, people have been talking about that with the Marvels upcoming because right now, two of the main characters in that you have to have watched Miss Marvel and WandaVision in order to understand those characters. So people are thinking like, oh, okay, I'm not even going to bother with the movie because I don't have time to watch those two shows in order to actually watch this one. Never mind watching the first Captain Marvel as well. So people are just like, you know what, I'll just check out. And I think Marvel is understanding that's where a lot of their issues are coming from. So they're trying to almost change focus like this and actually shifting course to go for like what the Netflix series did and try to emulate them with more grounded stories, I think is a better idea. I mean, and making it more mature, I think is a benefit for some stories. Not all stories need to be mature like this, but if you're going to do like, let's say a Punisher show like they did on Netflix, I mean, it needs to be a brutal show. I mean, you can't have like the Disney-fied version of it. And I've made a previous video talking about how that would just be a disaster if they tried to make the Punisher more kid-friendly or something like that, or kind of like the MCU version of the Punisher, which I couldn't just imagine how much of a disaster that would be. So actually shifting focus like this and understanding like, yeah, some shows and movies need to have a little bit more of a mature tone to it and need to be kind of like viewed as they're part of the MCU, but also something separate, I think is a smart move. Now, whether this will actually pay out remains to be seen, because we have seen some rumblings about certain elements of this that could spell doom for it. I mean, we got this right here, the director of the series talking about how it's going to have Native American and deaf representation and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't have anything against those type of things in and of themselves. When you have representation, if it's just like, okay, you have a superhero or you have a character in this show that happens to be deaf or happens to be Native American, it's like, okay, fine. But am I going to be like stopped, set down and lectured to by the show, and it just kind of takes you out of it because it's more or less the director using it as a mouthpiece to tell her own story? Then, okay, yeah, I just kind of check out. And even if it's messaging I like, it's like, I'm not watching this because I want to be lectured to, or I want to be reminded of current day issues or anything like that. I just want to watch a story that's kind of like escapism or something like that. And if I'm getting knocked over the head with it, then yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to enjoy it. But if it's just inconsequential to the whole thing, then so be it. Reportedly though, with this show, they had to reshoot a large portion of it because Kevin Feige didn't like it. And I think this show is going to be kind of like a weird hybrid of the way they've previously done things with the MCU shows and kind of like the new approach that they're trying to do. I mean, we already heard that they scrapped the first half of Daredevil and are actually starting over from scratch. So with this one, I don't know whether I don't think they actually started over from scratch. I think they just tried to redo everything. So I'm thinking it was maybe a little bit more lighthearted, kind of like how their other ones are. And now they're actually gonna reshooting things to make it a little bit more brutal and darker, but it's still having the original script that they started off with. So we're going to get a weird mesh, in my opinion, at least when this show comes out. I mean, so far it doesn't look like the studio has much confidence in it. The fact that they're dropping it on 2 different platforms and all at once, it seems like they just don't want people to talk about it for too much longer after it's released, and they just want it to kind of be out and done with it, and then before they can move on. So that's probably what's going to happen with this show. It's going to not be too good, but maybe moving forward we can actually see with some things like the new Daredevil Born Again or with the new Blade movie. It seems like they're kind of getting the right idea about how to approach those projects. And the question is whether this is actually enough to save Marvel, and I don't think they are. I mean, I think they've done too much damage to their brand over the years, putting out substandard products that people aren't willing to give them a chance unless they have not only like a couple good ones, but I mean, they need to have a pretty long stretch of movies and TV shows that are kind of like, okay, these are good, these are a return to form, and then maybe you can start bringing the audience back again. But I mean, that will take years, and I think that's years that they're not willing to invest in the properties. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, and if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.